for once, it sounds like college football has made the correct decision. And in this case, it's about straight seeding the college football playoff. Let's talk about what that means and when it's going to be implemented. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on the step mill. This is your first time watching the #1 college football show. Welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question below. Do you think it's been past time for college football to go to straight seeding? And maybe you do, even though we've only had one round of the 12-team playoff. But we found out some things that we like about it. We found out some things we didn't like about it, particularly the big conferences, notably the SEC, did not like the way that the seeding was done because they felt that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee had too much control over who was going to play whom. As you'll know, right, because we were seating group champions and so forth, so on in a different way, we ended up with some lopsided matchups, and we also ended up with Georgia, Tennessee having to play games that we didn't think that, well, Georgia should have to play. Tennessee, perhaps, right? Tennessee has to go to Ohio State. They didn't really like that. Georgia had to go through the hard way, even though they're one of the top-seeded teams in the country. Arizona State got some Fallon money in there. Texas might feel some kind of way about how they were seeded as well. But I think this is really going to make this simpler for everybody involved, and it's going to look a lot more like the top 25 might look, and a reflection of what college football actually looks like going into a playoff, especially as we only have 12 teams, and we think we're going to get to 16. But this news first broken by Heather Dinich, who does a great job at ESPN covering the college football playoff. And it's as simple as it says. The top 4 teams will get the top 4 seeds and the first round bye. The conference commissioners and Notre Dame athletic director Pete Vivekwa all reached that agreement, and I think it's important to note that this was unanimous across the committee. Everybody wanted this. That means that Notre Dame is quite literally on board, which also means that Notre Dame might still be a 5 seed, but if they're not and they're a 4 seed, they get a first round bye, right? That's what we're expecting from Marcus Freeman's Notre Dame program, especially after the leap that they made to get to the national championship game last year. You're also going to probably look at this and see the top 4 seeds make up 2 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams based entirely on what those conferences can generate in as far as a conference championship game. You're also not necessarily going to back people into a wall where they feel like they got to throw the conference championship game or they got to win the conference championship game. We like the conference championship game here on the show because we like playing for championships. We like trophies. I realize that there are some people that believe that, hey, conference championships need to go away. Well, it's a television invention, and any television invention that works is not going anywhere anytime soon. Plus, the SEC was the first to televise a conference championship game, and that's the reason, so they could put it on television in the 1990s. It's also going to make it a little bit simpler for us to do the math on who's going to do what, because as I'm doing my 135 and I'm taking a look at where programs are and who the rosters are, what the rosters are actually going to look like when we play football in August, one of the things I come back to is strength of schedule. I don't mind telling you, I'm not enthusiastic about Oklahoma's strength of schedule. It's daunting. It's pretty hard. Vanderbilt, same difference. Texas got a top 10 strength of schedule in there. Alabama's got a really juicy number 11 strength of schedule. I mean, they got Florida State to start the season. You're also looking at this from the standpoint of SMU getting into the college football playoff felt kind of wild, but there's still room for this. It's just straight seeding, right? Boise State might not get the lift that they would otherwise get. We're also looking at teams that play in more competitive leagues getting the benefit of that. And this is also really speaking to the Big 12 as much as it's speaking to the SEC. Chris Kleiman was way out in front when he says, look, we play one more conference game than some of our equals, right? SEC, for instance. We need to rethink that because we're beating up on each other and gaining nothing for it. We thought that the playoff selection committee would do right by us and decide, hey, we see you guys are playing the extra game. We think it's a really good league. We're going to seed you accordingly. Not necessarily, right? To say nothing of where BYU or Colorado or Iowa State might have been if Arizona State perhaps had been a higher ranked or lower ranked 12-team playoff seed. I think that doing this now is also indicative of just how quickly we want to get the ball rolling on getting some changes done in college football. Like, it's been talked about that the 12-team straight seeding was coming, but we were expecting it to all come when they expand perhaps to 16 teams in 2026 or they reopen the negotiations. But as the game has picked up speed and we're seeing House versus the NCAA come to a settlement in mere weeks, if not days, we're also trying to position ourselves for the future in what is going to be a really raucous and changing college football landscape. we're this close to having a CEO of college football telling us all what the rules are going to be and what the punishments are going to be. And we're closer and closer to people not being able to sue if they don't like the outcome of what the College Sports Commission, led by a CEO who answers to a board, is going to do. I think it's going to look a lot like the College Football Playoff Selection Committee looks like, where you got your 10 conference commissioners and Pete Vivekwa representing the majority of college football fans and all of the most important teams in our sport. You're also going to be, I think, see a schism that is going to get larger between group of 6, that's where the Pac-12 is now, group of 6 programs and the Power 4 programs. We might even get to a place where it feels like they play for another championship altogether in the group of 6, but they still want their seat at the table, and that's going to take some time to figure out. Because getting to Boise State to the college football playoff is a tremendous win for the Mountain West, especially as they've had teams defect to go to the Pac-12, and they're in the midst of a settlement agreement right now trying to sort all of that out. I think I'm enthusiastic about a 12-team seeding because it guarantees some matchups that I want to see, right? That's what we're actually trying to protect if we're not using Greg Sankey brain here. We like seeing Ohio State and Texas play against each other. We like seeing Ohio State and Oregon have to play again against each other. We like seeing Notre Dame versus Georgia play against each other. We like seeing Penn State versus Notre Dame play each other. We were not as enthusiastic about Penn State and Boise State, right? That's just not it. Like, Ohio State, Tennessee is a great matchup because it's non-conference type that the playoff was created to take advantage of. Having Tennessee come up to the shoe to play a night game, my goodness, and then get stomped out the way in which they did, and that be the catapult for Ohio State to go win a national championship for the first time since 2014. That's also tremendous. We're also going to see a spot where we're playing longer seasons, right? We had a 16 game season for the Ohio State team that won the national championship. We're edging toward mini camps. We're getting away from playing spring football games. We are modernizing the sport in ways that look professional and are professional. And this is one other way to do it, right? I think that's what the NFL had done right. And people were saying, hey, we had upsets in that straight seeding playoff they had in the NFL. I guess the committee did a bad job. Now you don't get to blame the committee. Now you have removed that as an impediment. And I like that too. I really enjoy the scoreboard being the arbiter of winners and losers. I really hate that we vote to find out who the national champion is. There are some of us, and I do this. Like, I make a top 25 for Fox every year, and it's one of the most read things on the website each and every week. I do a 135 now that was crazily well consumed, and I appreciate y'all for doing that. But we care about the rankings, and it is my job to do the best I can with what I got, right? Which is a reflection of what the public sentiment will withstand, right? One of the things you will not allow is UTSA to be a top 10 team because they are 10-0, no matter who they beat, unless they play in an SEC, and then we're talking about an SEC team. We're not talking about UTSA, for instance. Now, we're looking at this from Texas. We're looking at this from Ohio State. We're looking at this from Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, teams that we expect to be at the top of, well, I'm going to throw Notre Dame in the ACC for this conversation, to be at top of their leagues, right? And we want to protect that. That's what this is all about. We're trying to make sure that if you win a bunch of games in these difficult leagues and you have 1 or 2 losses, that they don't hurt you as much if you make the playoff. Because, again, I don't think that Greg Sankey enjoys not just watching 2 Big Ten teams win the last 2 national championships, but getting boxed out of playing for the national championship in back-to-back years. Remember, it was Michigan, Washington last year, and it was Ohio State, Notre Dame this year. A straight seeding can do something to mitigate that, especially as we expect the SEC to once again be really strong. Like, you go through it, you get to Florida, you get to South Carolina, you still got some strong strength left there. And then it's the Arkansas line, right? Arkansas's got a top 10 strength schedule, and I just don't see them being competitive enough to win a championship, let alone make the playoff as a 12-team seed. But we're going to talk more about this as we continue. But this does not really change things for Ohio State or Texas or Georgia, teams that win or play for the SEC championship or the Big Ten championship, Oregon. This is going to change things, I think, a little bit further down the line and reflect what we know to be true, right? What we know to be true. Some teams are better than others. Now, if they can go win the football game, then great. That's awesome. That's great for the sport. If they can't, we're not left with a dud, kind of like we were when we watched Boise State. Even though I enjoyed watching that game. I enjoyed watching Ashton Jeanty get his version of shutdown, which is 130 yards. But he dislocated Abdul Carter's shoulder in it. So I don't know how much losing he actually did in that game. Again, we'll monitor it. But the 12-team seeding, straight seeding, very cool, very big deal. Let me know what you think in the comments below.